So what's up, people, and welcome to the Chapter 46 discussion of怪獣8号, or Monster Number 8. So Chapter 46 came out about 5 days ago, and as always, I will leave a link to this chapter that's currently being shown on the publisher's official website, Manga Plus, for free to the North American audience. So if you're interested, go take a look at it. Okay, so Chapter 46. If you saw my video for Chapter 45 and 44, you know that I've been enjoying this part of the story quite a bit. The author, Matsumoto Naoya, took a relatively cliché and often used trope and put it in a much more creative and unique manner. And because of that, I was looking forward to what was going to transpire in Chapter 46. Well, you may hate me for my opinion, but I was a little bit disappointed in Chapter 46. It's not a bad chapter, and if it was any other manga like Fairy Tail where it just goes over standard cliché tropes, then it's a pretty good way of showing it. But considering how well Matsumoto Naoya set up Chapter 45 and 44, I was expecting a lot more from 46 based upon some of the things I saw in the previous chapters, and so I wanted to go over that in this discussion. So as you know, Kafka and Shinomiya are fighting Monster Number 9, and in this part of the story, Kafka is finding out that he is having difficulty transforming into Monster Number 8. Every time he tries, he will revert back to his human form, and this is becoming an extreme problem when fighting Monster Number 9. And now that we're in Chapter 46 discussion, I think I could talk about 45 in detail. The thing I really liked about Chapter 45 is when it started showing this image. As we know, in the previous part of the story, Kafka lost control of his Monster Number 8 form, and he could not consciously turn himself back or stop himself from attacking Commander Shinomiya. And this image basically shows that something is going on between that monster that entered his body and made him turn into Monster Number 8 and himself. And it created this implication that there's going to be a battle of control between the small monster and himself. And what was interesting is the reason he was not being able to turn into Monster Number 8 had nothing to do with this control issue that was coming out from the smaller monster, but because of his fear of losing control again. And the reason I like this so much in Chapter 45 is because if you look at a lot of these sorts of situations in other mangas, and why I often call it cliché, is you often see this sort of situation where a character has difficulty doing something. They have a hard time getting into their overpowered mode. And it's never really explained why they can't do it. It just goes into I can't do it, and because of that, a lot of the other support characters fall into problems. And what's so cliche about it is that it overuses what a lot of readers often call the Nakama power. Because this character sees that the supporting characters are in trouble, for whatever godly reason, they actually overcome the problem with absolutely no explanation. It's just sheer Nakama power, and then they go on and beat the enemy. The thing I liked about Chapter 45 is first, it started with a conflict between the small monster and himself, in that it felt like the small monster was trying to take over his body. So now that raises a couple of questions. First, we always thought this small monster was a beneficial type of monster, a symbiote that would give Kafka the ability to become Monster Number 8 while keeping control of his body. But this problem that came up in the previous story with the battle between him and Commander Shinomiya showed that there was something going on. We're not exactly sure what, and we're not even sure if it is the smaller monster trying to take control. But something is changing in his ability with monster number 8. And it seems to be indicative of whatever relationship he's going to have with this small monster. So it's not the author just randomly putting in a problem. It is already described as what the problem is. And then what we find out in this past chapter, chapter 45, is that because of that issue he had with losing control of his body, he has now created a phobia in being able to get into monster number 8. So this explains exactly what this problem is. It's not due to, again, an unexplainable situation, but it's actually a psychological problem within himself. And this creates an internal battle between him and his own fears. And this is really interesting because of the fact that it gives a avenue and an explanation of how he's going to overcome it. It's not just screaming out Nakama power and then being able to overcome the situation. It's about him having to fight his own inner persona to be able to gather enough courage to overcome his problems and eventually transform into monster number 8. But even within that transformation, because there is that fear going on, there may continuously be some issues moving forward. Nobody ever overcomes their fear completely in one shot. And so that's why I really enjoy the past chapters, in that the author set this up so well so that there could be a very valid and credible reason of how Kafka can overcome this situation, rather than to just say, oh, my Nakama is in danger, I had all this problem, but all of a sudden all my problems went away and I have complete control of my body. And that is why I am a little bit disappointed with chapter 46, because, as you can even see with this one panel, yeah, he's ready to kick butt now that he's transformed into monster number 8. And the rest of the chapter just goes completely into the battle where monster number 8 is really dishing out some terrible hurt against monster number 9. So the question is, what was the purpose of the previous chapters? Now, this is only one chapter, and maybe a lot of that problem will continue to come out. There's always twists and turns in many of these battles, and maybe somewhere along the way, his psychological fear will come out again. But if it doesn't, then it's very unfortunate, because he did set this thing up so well to be an internal problem within Kafka. Matsumoto Naoya has been very good with regards to creating a much more complex character in Kafka than the standard shonen sort of trope, where some inexperienced, naive character just becomes seriously OP through various situations. We see the inner conflict within Kafka of him trying to come up to the levels of Commander Mina, but having difficulty doing so, and his depression from that situation and how he's overcoming it with these stories. So this story is not just about a character physically becoming stronger, but a character having to fight his own psychological situations to get to a better place. And that's what makes this story so much more interesting than the standard shonen comics. And chapter 45 gave yet another facet of that. And I am looking forward to seeing how Matsumoto Naoya resolves his fear. But if it just naturally went away and everything's going to go back to being monster number 8 being the OP character that can kick every other monster to Kingdom Come, then it's unfortunate. I've always liked stories of inner turmoil and inner challenges. That's one of the reasons why I like stories such as Battle Angel Alita or Berserk, because they go through such very difficult internal conflicts, right? Sometimes the enemy of the protagonist is the protagonist themselves. And I was looking forward to this one being that way because you don't often see that in a comedy action manga. And so this would have been very unique in that it doesn't go the standard cliche route. It doesn't go the typical trope of, yeah, I won't explain why I became stronger, but I became stronger and because of that I defeated all the enemy and we end the arc that way. I hope it doesn't go that direction, and I hope Matsumoto Naoya has some more creative writing in chapter 47 and beyond. But that is the reason why I was disappointed in chapter 46. Not because it's a terribly bad chapter. If it was another typical standard comic, yeah, I would accept that. But I've enjoyed Monster Number 8 for its uniqueness and its creative story writing. And the way he set up chapter 44 and 45 was so good, that, yeah, when you see something like this, it just becomes a little bit of a disappointment. But in any case, that is my chapter 46 discussion for Monster Number 8. Thank you very much for listening. And until the next chapter, happy manga reading. And as always, Jaya, nice day, everyone.